Just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already!
Welcome to the Podcram. Here's a handful of tasty morsels from Libertarian Keith Knight's episode titled 64 Arguments Against Democratic Socialism. Enjoy.
The first argument against democratic socialism is the argument from hyper-individualism. Consider two grocery stores. One grocery store says food is vitally important for human beings. Therefore, everyone in the community should be forced to shop, fund, and invest in that grocery store because food is necessary for life. So everyone by law must send money to this grocery store. The other grocery store is one that says, we want to make money. What we're going to do is have investors invest in buildings. We're going to build up a facility. We're going to hire people, and we're going to charge money for the products we sell. And if people want to come in and potentially buy something, maybe buy a few things, maybe buy a lot of things, they'll be able to do so if they choose. If we're not able to make a profit, we'll go out of business. It's very clear that the grocery store that allows you to actually opt out of funding them is much more involved in the concept of cooperation or mutually beneficial voluntary exchange. And the selfish one is the one who says, we are so valuable that we should get your money with or without your consent. A second aspect of this argument is their unwillingness to differentiate between people who earn large amounts of wealth voluntarily and those who get wealth coercively. So they don't differentiate between the fraudulent Bernie Madoff and the inventors or creators of In-N-Out Burger. Whether you're a thief or someone who's invested money or someone who works hard, they just vilify the rich. Now, in their defense, for the vast majority of human history, what you could call pre-capitalist inequality, the vast majority of human history, the way you gained wealth was through confiscation, through threats, violence, colonialism, imperialism. It wasn't until the concept of capitalism allowed you to voluntarily contract for mutually beneficial gain, then people were able to acquire large amounts of wealth without using violence or threats thereof. Now, the concept that taxation is theft, regulation is theft, you're forcibly telling people what they can and can't do with their scarce time, their body, and their property. If you don't think that those are theft, all you have to do is use this basic universalization concept and say, well, then why can't anybody do it? If education is something that's so important, it's okay to coerce people into funding it, well, then why can't the Libertarian Institute start issuing taxes on people's income or issue a sales tax? Every time someone makes a trade, you just have to give 1 penny to the Libertarian Institute. That's a very modest sum for all the content we create. But the concept of universality is completely rejected by the Democratic Socialists. That's another reason to oppose such an idea. Number 11, competition protects consumers and workers better than regulation does. Doesn't mean it's perfect, means it's better than the state engaging in regulation. Usually, when the Democratic Socialist makes an argument against capitalism, they will refer to harsh working conditions in the Industrial Revolution or maybe harsh working conditions in the present. They completely ignore the history of government workers being mistreated. The obvious case would be government's unwillingness to engage voluntarily with the working class and engaging in military conscription. So in the case of the Industrial Revolution, as bad as the situation was, it was a hell of a lot better than what the government was offering with their involuntary labor between 1861 and 1865. More than 1 million men got their limbs blown off in permanent casualties, and there were roughly 600,000 deaths. When OSHA is doing these analyses of workplace deaths, well, do they count the members of the military who were sent to Afghanistan on a lie, sent to Iraq on a lie, sent to Syria on a lie? Those are all working class deaths. but they're not in the private sector. They're in the government sector. So all the people who have been conscripted by governments, that needs to be accounted for when you're saying, who's here to really protect the working classes? Government won't even give you the option to opt out in many cases. Pete Hegseth this year just made selective service, a fancy word for slavery, automatically register by the time, I believe, every man turns 18. I'm sure the feminists are outraged that only one gender has to register for conscription. And the way that you can prove that competition protects workers better than the state is you have to ask, why isn't it? If the theory is private companies do the absolute bare minimum, and the only reason they do that is because there's a government law forcing them to, and we, the people, need to support the government to increase those laws to make the corporations protect us more, you would assume that roughly 100% of people earn the minimum wage, because that's the minimum that you have to pay workers by law. Turns out a very small percentage of people earn the minimum wage. Once they get on the job experience, they then get a raise. They can demand higher pay as a result of competition amongst employers. So you have to ask, why is it that these companies pay more than minimum wage? Are they just super generous? Every company I've ever worked for or looked into has jobs that pay more than the minimum wage. This can't be explained through the concept of, well, the government regulates the workplace. This is the result of competition. What makes the wages higher is the entrepreneur knowing that if I don't make you an attractive offer to keep you on my staff, you're going to go to one of my competitors.
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podcram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.